everybody. Welcome back to Hearing Things with Julie and Brad. We are ecstatic to have a very special guest with us tonight. Shanna Groves is an author, speaker, educator, podcaster. She wrote her first book called Lip Reader, which is a novel about a family living with deafness inspired by a true story.
Recording in progress.
Becoming an author and all of these wonderful things, she was a special education teacher in my field. She's one of my people, specializing in teaching children with hearing loss, deafness, and communication challenges. She is also the host of the Definitely Talking podcast on YouTube and Spotify, and was gracious enough to have us on and to entrust that we were going to behave ourselves enough to appear on her show. So we're very happy to reciprocate and have you here with us. And I highly recommend that you follow all of her work and her writing and her advocacy work at lipreadingmom.com, and we'll include that in the links to the description of the show. I highly recommend everybody finds her and follows her an impressive canon of work with more coming, and we're going to hear all about that tonight. So welcome. Thanks for coming on. Good to see you.
Oh, Julie, thank you. And thank you, Brad, for having me. It's great.
So let's start off with a simple term. So we do like to show there's no one way to be deaf or hard of hearing. And so Julie's term is hearing impaired. Yep. Mine is hard of hearing. So Shanna, what is your hearing loss term?
It's a complicated answer.
That's fine.
Okay. For 23 years, I identified as hard of hearing, but about 2 years ago, I experienced a traumatic hearing loss in my left ear. And anyway, last year I had cochlear implant surgery, which without my devices now, I'm pretty much deaf. Yeah. So I will say I'm formerly hard of hearing, and now I am medically deaf with a cochlear implant to hear.
That's, it's so misunderstood that it changes over time, right? The hearing changes over time, how you accept the hearing, and then the medical situation can change as well. So can you share a little bit more about your hearing loss history? So you said you said you were hard of hearing for a number of years. Did that go back to your childhood, or did you start losing your hearing later in life?
Well, the official diagnosis is progressive bilateral sensory neural hearing loss. Okay. And that means basically that in both ears, I have a progressive nature of hearing loss. And the cause of the hearing loss can go back generations on my dad's side of my family. That I have several relatives who identify as deaf or hard of hearing on that side of the family. I know that when I was growing up, I did have some difficulty hearing, but I was told that my hearing was fine by one audiologist when I was 6 years old. And I never was retested again until the age of 27. And that's when they discovered that I had a severe to profound bilateral hearing loss.
Wow. That sounds so similar to my story. So yes, like mine is also from my father's side. And I had my hearing tested at 5, and I needed hearing aids, but I didn't get them. And then it took until I was 23 to finally get them. So it's fascinating that story. Right. So as Julie mentioned, you go by Lip Reading Mom, and so that was originally a blog. Can you tell us a little bit about how, when, and how it got started?
Yes. So for those of you watching on video, if you're not watching on video, I will give a verbal description if you are listening or if you're reading a transcript. But I'm holding up a color photograph. I am sitting in the middle of the photograph. There is a lake behind me, and on either side of me, I am surrounded by my children. To my left is my son, who at the time, my oldest son, was 9. And then my daughter is sitting on my right, and she was 6. And then my youngest son was sitting on my lap, and I don't even think he was 2 yet. Wow. And this was about the time in 2011 that I wanted to start writing about my experiences as a hard of hearing mom. And I came up with the terminology of lip reading mom.
Recording stopped.
I'm signing lip reading with putting two fingers in front of my mouth and circling my mouth. That is the sign for lip reading. And then mom, I'm pointing my hand out from my chin for mom. So I'm a lip reading mom. And I thought that had kind of an interesting term to use for myself.
Recording in progress.
So let me just jump in there for a second. For people who are listening, they might be hearing the recording. And so what Shanna is doing is she has a note-taking application to transcribe the meeting for her own benefit. So that's why you're hearing that, because it's all about technology and accommodations. So, sorry. Go ahead, Shanna.
All right. So anyway, we had a nice intermission with hearing assistive technology, which is all about being a lip reading mom. So I have been a hearing aid or a cochlear implant wearer because the cochlear implant came in 2025. But prior to that, for 23 years, I was a hearing aid wearer in both ears. And now I wear a hearing aid in my right ear and a cochlear implant in my left ear. And so because of the progressive nature of my hearing loss, 2 years ago, I experienced the profound loss in this left ear. In this left ear, as a mom and just as a human being, this was my better listening ear.
Yeah.
And I was completely thrown off because this is the ear when I would be seated in a room or at a table, I would always have my better ear facing whoever is talking. And without having a better ear, I was completely lost because lip reading itself, the process of watching what someone is saying by looking at their face, their mouth, their body gestures, you can only decipher 30 to 40% of communication visually. And because a lot of the sounds are usually hidden in the throat or the mouth, and you can't decipher that. So I needed to have some access to some hearing to be able to lip read, and I was struggling with lip reading too. Yeah. So being a lip reading mom it's exhausting.
100%. Yeah, I can't imagine. The people don't understand that. I think I'm glad you brought up that percentage point, because movies always make it seem like if you can read lips, you got everything. Right? But it's just another tool. The lip reading, the assistive technology is just another tool. So it's tough. It's tough. And if your hearing changes, right, that tool has to change as well.
Absolutely. And so I'm very fortunate that we live in a day and age that technology is advanced by leaps and bounds. I think even going back to 2001, when my hearing loss was diagnosed, hearing aids did not have the capabilities to hear certain sounds or be able to have clarity with certain sounds like hearing aids do in 2026. Right. And all of the extra features, like having a remote control with your hearing devices, that was not something that existed for me in 2001. And so you were dependent upon something behind your ear that amplified everything. Right. Without differentiating from the sounds.
Exactly. Yes. That old analog technology, everything was flat in one volume.
I never had
analog. Digital was like unbelievable.
That's great.
But you're absolutely right. Brad always says, especially when I get frustrated, he's like, think of all the technology. This is a great time to be hard of hearing. You're doing great. I'm like, I know, you're right.
No, it's a great time to be hard of hearing. And you know what? More and more people are becoming hard of hearing because of exposure to loud noises. So, and also with our baby boomer aging demographic, that population is large in itself. And typically, the longer we live in life, the more likely we are to experience hearing loss with age. And that population is exploding that is living with hearing loss today. So the technology is really trying to meet that greater need.
Absolutely. Such a good point. So you started your lip reading mom blog for blaming the cold I have right now back around 2011 or so. So how did that, was just something you just started telling your personal story, or were you writing more, kind of relating it to being a parent with hearing loss to children? Were you giving more dispensing advice, or was it more just a place to kind of share your struggles? Tell us a little bit more about the content and how you kind of launched.
Yeah, that's a great question, Julie. I think there was a combination of just mom stories, because at the time, I still had a child in diapers, and I had two children in elementary. I think one was entering middle school. So they were gone at school all day. And then I had my youngest son at home with me playing with his Thomas the Train track on a cold winter day. And I just remember watching him, and he was so enthralled in this train track and putting these pieces together. And I thought, well, I love to write. I love to communicate. And I'm sitting here feeling sorry for myself as a lip reading mom.
Sure.
Oh, that's a good idea. What if I start writing as a lip reading mom and start sharing about these feelings about being a mom, young children at the time, who I can't hear very well. Sure. And I have to depend on reading their tiny little lips. And they don't. One of them was almost nonverbal.
Oh, wow.
My youngest. He was so young. And the other two were still learning speech sounds. I mean, they were still, you know what I mean? So it was very important, I think, for me to identify those struggles, but also put some humor in that, because it's very fun. As you know, Julie, you work in education, teaching children. You can have a lot of humorous experiences in parenting children, and add the layer of not being able to hear them very well. You have lots of stories to share.
Absolutely.
And that's pretty much, I was just kind of a slice of life type of blog is how it started out.
That's great.
Timeless too, right? I'm sure people reading now will be able to relate to your stories.
In so many levels, relate as a parent. I mean, educators work with kids. You're going to pick up some of your own kind of threads with what you've shared as well. And then really bringing to light, I don't think people realize how our disability impacts every single second of every day, of every activity we do. And for you to bring that forward as a parent struggling with this disability of raising children, I think that's fantastic. Now, your book, so you have two. Tell me about your books a little bit. So you have your first book that came out, and then we have a recent book that came out.
I do have a book. It's no longer available in print, so I don't have a print copy to hold up, because I don't want to confuse anyone by showing a print copy that you can no longer order. But it is available as a Kindle, a Kindle ebook, and it's called Lip Reader.
There you go.
How convenient is that? Lip Reader. 2 words, Lip Reader, and it is a fiction story. I would kind of define it as a coming of age story of a 12-year-old girl who is coming to terms with her family's deafness and hearing loss. That her mom, who grew up in that family, was ashamed of. And tried to shield her 2 daughters, one being the 12-year-old narrator, from the reality of deafness and hearing loss, until they had a family emergency where they had to return back to the family that is deaf. And they basically got a very quick introduction to that grandma and grandpa are deaf. Their cousins are hard of hearing or deaf. Everyone is signing.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, this story is inspired by my dad's extended family, because his father was severely hard of hearing, and I wanted to come to terms with that family's deafness, because I had been shielded from it for so long. My dad didn't talk about it. My mom didn't talk about it. It wasn't until I was in college that I visited that family and tried to get to know them better and ask questions. And so I feel like I am the 12-year-old girl in the story trying to understand family deafness and hearing loss. And it has some really fun twists and turns in it too. We have some colorful characters, and we have like something like a mystery that happens in the middle of the book that leaves you in suspense. And so it's got that fiction element. But you can find that on Amazon.
Perfect.
Lip Reader.
Perfect. So I wanted to highlight your first book. We talked about your blog. You also have a podcast. I really want to build for everyone here all of the avenues that you're taking with your advocacy work. So how did your Definitely Talking show get started? I know season 2 just came out, right? Is that the one
it did. Yes, you were the season premiere episode of
blogs to fiction
of Definitely Talking. Definitely Talking came about 3 months after my cochlear implant surgery. And it was in October of 2025. I had gained so much confidence from having a cochlear implant and being able to hear better that I have always wanted to enjoy podcasts.
Right.
Like a lot of them were not accessible to me being hard of hearing. But either they're not captioned or they don't have transcripts, and it's all audio. Well, I wanted to kind of change that a little bit, and kind of like what you do with your podcast, you make yours accessible. I wanted to host something that not only was an accessible podcast for the deaf, hard of hearing, but that actually put a spotlight on the deaf and hard of hearing community by featuring guests who identify as deaf or hard of hearing, and what their stories are like, and what these major accomplishments they've made in their life. I mean, some are teachers, such as Julie. Some of them are librarians, such as Brad. We have authors, we have inventors, we have CEOs, we have, so deafness and hearing loss does not limit you from living a full life. And that's what Definitely Talking means to me, and that's why I started it.
Love it.
It's great. It's a great series. So many people that we've been inspired by personally that you've interviewed to date, which has been really exciting to see. Like Gail Hannon and Sherry Eberts, Michelle Hu. I mean, like,
you got a great list of episodes.
Team, for sure.
Thank you. I'm still looking for recommendations, so please reach out to me at lipreadingmom.com if you have a recommendation for a person who's deaf, hard of hearing to interview.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
So they get that word out. So then we went back to writing. So now you have a new book coming out. So tell us about that. I'm very, very excited to hear what
my new book
adventure is.
Yes. So for those who are watching, for those who are not, I will describe. I'm holding up a hardcover version of my second book, and the title of that is How I Hear: Confessions of a Lip Reading Mom. And the cover photo is black and white of me. I'm wearing sunglasses. I have a side profile that the photo is taken, and you can see my cochlear implant tucked behind my ear. Yep. And the designer of the cover, who I worked with, she highlighted it in a very vivid pink to stand out from the black and white image of my face.
I love it.
And so what you see really are the words to the book, because they're in bold print, and you see this pink device sitting behind my ear. And this book was published in 2026. It's new, and you can purchase it as a hardcover, paperback, or an ebook through Amazon. And it is my story of the 6 years from 2001, when I was diagnosed with the progressive hearing loss. Mm-hmm. My oldest son had just been born, and so he was 2 months old when I was diagnosed. I was struggling to hear him during my maternity leave. I developed tinnitus, ringing in the ears. So I talk about that experience in those initial months after he was born, and that diagnosis of my hearing just kept declining. And I could no longer hear the doorbell ring. I could not hear my phone ring anymore because of the high frequency sounds. I could not hear smoke alarm anymore. I was so scared. And then if I left the room, I could not hear my child's cries. And I was just scared, devastated, you name every emotion. And I write about it in this book. But then I also talk about the 6 years after that and how my family grew. So I talk about the birth of my daughter, and I developed more hearing loss and how I dealt with that. And I talk about how I taught my children how to communicate with me, especially during emergency situations. Absolutely. And then the book has a nice little ending, which I won't share, but it does kind of show the silver lining of my life during those 6 years as a hard of hearing mom. It kind of puts in perspective if you can come up with a why. Sure. Why is this happening to me? Sure. And what wisdom can I gain from this? And so I wanted to share that wisdom in this book through telling my story. I love and hope that people who are dealing with any type of loss, whether it be hearing loss or some type of progressive disability or a loss of a loved one, because I do talk about losing loved ones in this book too, and grief, I want you to know that you are not alone. This book validates it for you, and that mental health issues are very real when we process these losses, and we need to talk about them. If we don't talk about them, how will we see any improvement in our deaf, hard of hearing community as far as access to what we need to thrive? And this book is for anyone who can identify with losing someone or something and trying to figure out, what the silver lining is to that, if you can find one.
And Shanna, I'm listening to you talk about your book with such passion and conviction and vulnerability. And what struck me, it struck me when you held the cover up, and it's striking me even more so now having heard you talk about it, is how powerful that cover image is, and how that cover image really conveys from the beginning the power of the story that you're sharing, because your cochlear implant is front and center in that cover, bold and bright, and it's just like this declaration of ownership and struggle and the conclusion, and here I am and standing in your own power.
I love it.
I think it's fantastic, and the cover design's perfect, and it just really automatically grabs your eye and just targets everything that she just shared. So without even opening the book, I mean, I'm very excited.
Well, thank you. Well, I can't take credit. Okay, the photographer of this photo was my beloved husband, Scott. It actually was originally a color photo, but I did hire a book designer for this cover. Her name is Sarah Mosher, Mosher. Actually, that's her maiden name. She's now Sarah Mosher Myers, and she is deaf.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
She does graphic design and book design. And I asked her if she would be the book cover designer, and she designed the front and then the back. There's a little tiny photo of me with a pink shirt on, and the words on the shirt say definitely.
Oh, nice.
DAF. Deaf.
Yeah.
Definitely wonderful. And that is kind of the transformation that my journey with hearing loss has come to. One where I was scared, I was afraid, I was angry, I was confused, to I embrace this. I am deaf. I wear hearing aid and a cochlear implant, and I have to lip read people, and it's okay.
It's awesome. I'm so happy that you are putting that vulnerability forward and addressing all of those multi-layers of emotion that come with the disability that we have. Because again, I think so many of us, and I know you're one of them, and I know I am, and you are too, the way we present ourselves to the world is, hearing loss, it's a nuisance. Nothing to see here, move along, it's fine. But inside, people don't get it. So I'm so happy that you took that step and came forward and providing this to everybody. It's really quite the accomplishment. So thank you for that. And you feel very proud of yourself for the work that you did. And the book is beautiful, and really, it's really a gift to our community.
Thank you so much.
To read. So absolutely.
Thank you for your kind words.
Of course.
All right, one last question here. If you had to pick one thing, what would the one thing you wish more people knew about hearing loss?
I wish that people understood that those of us who are hard of hearing, or we're deaf, but we use technology to be able to hear, that they would understand what listening fatigue is.
Oh, yes.
So we can all define, and the three of us can probably each define what listening fatigue is, but listening fatigue It's basically, let's say you have typical hearing. Like if one of your listeners or viewers can relate to having typical hearing and not having hearing loss or deafness, then you can close your eyes and you can listen to music, you can listen to birds, you can listen to a podcast, you can listen to your favorite song on the radio. Those of us who are deaf or hard of hearing must have visual access to that auditory subject. And so if a person with typical hearing is listening to music, first of all, I'm asking, what is this? Like, I hear the bass. I feel the vibration of the music. What type of a song is this? I put my implant in and I'm turning the volume all the way up, like on whatever the devices I'm listening to. And it's exhausting. So like, I'm trying so hard to hear, which comes naturally for everybody else. And I am exhausted by the end of the day of constantly having to work 5 times harder.
Absolutely.
To understand what auditory information is being given to me.
Great points.
That's a perfect description. I loved how you broke that down about the music, that it's nothing for us is a passive activity.
You gotta go out and get it.
Always. That's the perfect one. That listening fatigue, man.
Thank you.
It.
Well,
we know.
You both have
sure.
a lot of life experience with hearing loss and deafness that probably by the end of your workday, you're just wanting to check out for a little bit and reset.
So true.
I wish I could nap. You nap, right?
I do. I almost every day I take a 15 to 20 minute nap when I get home from school, just to recharge enough to fully participate and enjoy the second half of my day into the evening.
It's tough.
Most days, yeah.
So hard.
And I would love for people to acknowledge not only the listening fatigue, but also that we're not being rude if we say we need to take a break from noise, from a lot of sound, because people might assume that we're deaf, hard of hearing. We can't hear those things. But
no, right.
Hearing loss and deafness is a spectrum.
Right.
And whereas maybe without my hearing devices, the only thing I can hear are very low frequency sounds. If those low frequency sounds are like jet engine loud, I'm like shaking. Yes. And I start developing a headache. And I'm like, even for me being almost deaf, if I hear something in that frequency that's too loud, and it would be too loud for everybody.
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
But even I would be exhausted just to understand that we need to all recharge when we are in any type of a complicated listening environment.
Absolutely.
Great points.
Absolutely.
All right, so we talked about some books today, and I'll put links to Shanna's books in the description. Sure. Please go check those out. Check those out. But we do like to show that we're more than just our hearing loss. And to that end, a librarian and a teacher always like to recommend books. And we like to have our guests also recommend a book. So, Shanna, what is your book recommendation?
Okay. So I'm holding up a book called Disability Visibility. It is first-person stories from the 21st century, edited by the late Alice Wong, who was a beautiful writer who we sadly lost within the last 2 years. And this book, to me, I discovered this during the height of the COVID pandemic, I think in like 2021. And I just picked it up and just, you can open to any chapter and it will have a theme about something related to a different disability. So it's not all about hearing loss and deafness. It could be mobility disabilities. It could be about autism. It could be blindness or vision impairment. But the author of each chapter is a first-person nonfiction story, basically told from their point of reference and their experience with their own disability and what they have learned from it and what they want other people to know about it. And so this is great to inspire those of us living with disabilities to that we, these are some great examples of people doing powerful things to advocate for themselves and their disabilities, but also those who don't live with disability to just try to put themselves in the shoes of an individual who does live with disability. Just if you can immerse yourself in a book and try to experience someone else's life for an hour at a time. Yeah. This is a great book.
Fantastic. I've read it in the height of the pandemic as well. So it was a great book, very powerful, and it does open your eyes. So it was an excellent choice. What do you have, Julie? Do you have to
I have completely fluffy nonsense today. It's called Imperfect Women, and I believe the pronounced name is Araminta Hall. We'll link that down below so you can see it. And it's very easy reading at night when you're tired, when you have listening fatigue, and you want to turn the world off and read a book and not have to think. It was just recently made into a Apple series, a limited series on Apple.
Okay.
And it stars Kerry Washington, nice. Kate Mara, and Elizabeth Moss, three of my favorite actresses. And it's really like a whodunit kind of thing, and it gets deep into like women's friendship relationships and layers that can come with multiple female friendships and little groups and cliquey things and romantic relationships and twists and turns and complete flakiness, not serious topic at all, because I'm sure you have some highbrow intellectual joints like you usually do. So I loved it. It was good. It was fun. It was a fun read. I mean, it's going to
it's what you need sometimes, right?
Be my number one pick for the rest of my life. No, but it was fun enough. It was fine. I enjoyed it.
Oh,
it was a vacation
wonderful.
Week for me last week.
Well, Elizabeth Moss is one of my favorite actresses from Mad Men. Did you watch the AMC TV series Mad Men?
I remember.
Oh, best show of all time, I think.
Nice.
But she, I think this would be a story that I would like to read. And so, Julie, if you would be so kind offline to please share more details, I would like to maybe try to check it out from my library. That's how I get a lot of my books. And if I really like the book, I will usually try to order it from a local independent bookseller if I can, and if not, Amazon. So
it's a great read at night. It's good. It keeps you engaged enough. It's not too stressful.
I love the fact that you're going to go to your library, because a lot of times I'll hear like people saying, well, why do libraries exist? Don't authors hate it because you're not going to buy the book if you can just rent it from the library? So many authors are going on record saying they expect people to do what you did. You try it from the library, and if you really like it, then you go out and buy it. And so it's a great way to do it. And
that's right. And a book in a library can live on those shelves for decades.
Yeah, sure.
Depending on the quality of the book and if the cover holds up.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And I love the independent bookshop because
a book can live forever.
That's true. Yeah.
If you take care of it.
Yeah, that's the key, right? Don't bring it to the beach.
If you're going to do a beach read book, then buy a paperback book at the airport on your way to the beach.
I love it. Destroy it. All right, what? What?
It's not that bad. My book is The Unfinished Story of the World Wide Web by Tim Berners-Lee. So the internet has been around since 1969.
Really?
Yeah. ARPA, so the Department of Defense created ARPANET, but that was the way you access the internet was very closed off. So what the World Wide Web did was open it up. Every website begins with HTTP, so that's how the transfer protocol, that's actually how people can access things remotely. All the hyperlinks, that was created. That's what the World Wide Web is. And Tim Berners-Lee is the one who created that. And he worked for CERN, which is a particle collider in Switzerland. And this is kind of the backstory of how the World Wide Web came to be. And it's also talking about the challenges of like copyright infringement and how easy it is to spread lies now. And who owns your data online. Yeah. So it was really interesting read. So it's not too highbrow.
Was it a dry read or was it engaging enough for those of us who don't understand?
Can I be honest with you?
Go for it.
I prefer to read nonfiction.
That's fine.
So I need to get a copy of that book. If you can please share the details offline with me, Brad. Now, the only way I can get engrossed in a fiction book is if the first chapter builds some type of an emotional connection with at least one character. If I can't achieve that emotional connection,
do it.
Check out.
It's difficult.
But is it dry read, or is it textbookish? Like, what's
not text. It's a lot of anecdotes. So it's not a lot of. There is a lot of technology, like engineering, because he was an engineer. But there's a lot of anecdotes as well. So I think that it would be a lot tougher read, but not as bad as some of the books I've recommended. How's that? Okay. Fair. But we will share the offline with you, Shanna, and we'll share with everybody else as well. In the description, we always put the links to the books at bookshop.org, which if you go to that website and you buy it, a certain proceed goes to a local bookshop. So you don't have to worry about spending your money on Amazon if the book is on bookshop.org.
There you go.
Anyway, anything else you want to tell our audience, Shanna, before we sign off?
Well, I want to first of all thank both of you for your generosity of time and commitment to doing an interview with me, and because I enjoyed talking with you on the Definitely Talking podcast a few months ago. And I just want your viewers and listeners and readers, if they're reading the transcript, to just know that hearing loss and deafness is not a tragedy. It is just, for some of us, especially if it's later in life or progressive, it's just like a novel. It's just a new chapter. But it's not the end of the book.
I love it.
Perfect.
Fantastic way to sign off.
Couldn't think of a better way to end. That was great.
Great.
So good to see you.
Yes.
You too. Thank you.
I'm sure we'll be talking
so much.
All right. Appreciate it.
Thanks
a lot.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.